Hello and Merry Christmas from Craig Mack at Liberty Bell Beekeepers, along with my two very impatiently waiting dogs. I'm going to try to shoot a video here. Sit and stay. Stay. And in order for me to do that, stay right there. Stay. Trying to get you in the camera here. Stay. Good. In order for me to shoot this video in a quiet manner, I'm going to have to give these guys their Christmas treat. So there you go. Take it nice. Good boy. Cooper, young man. All right. Ha! And of course, perfect intro ruined by the compressor. Hello and welcome. Craig Mack here, Liberty Bell Beekeepers. Merry Christmas to those of you that celebrate, and happy Friday to the rest of you. So here we are in the shop. I got myself some Christmas presents today. Well, not today alone, but this past week. My son's a bit older, so I'm on my own today for Christmas, and of course with quarantines and lockdowns, it's always difficult to get together with your family. My family in particular, we have a transplant recipient in my father, so it's important that we take care of him. So in my pursuits today, let me show you what I did. You can see as behind me here, I made up some boxes, a couple of 10 frame deeps and 5 medium supers for each. I made this out of sanded plywood. You can see obviously on the end that that's the case. Now I don't have any problems using plywood. I got a bunch of plywood hives. The sanded plywood I don't always use. Usually I just use the regular rough plywood. It's like 35 bucks a sheet. And out of that one sheet, you can get 4 of these nuke boxes here. With the lids, you need a little bit more material, but if you make a migratory lid, you can get them out of that. But today, and every now and again, I'll buy the nicer plywood. And the reason I bought the nicer plywood today is because I wanted to try to get into making some finger joints for my boxes, not only my boxes, but also for my other woodworking projects. Finger joints are great. Simple joint, easy to make. There's a ton of different jigs you can use. There's a ton of videos out there to show you how to do that. Tons of woodworkers obviously on YouTube and across the planet, and there's so much great information out there. I always tell or recommend, if you're getting into beekeeping or you're getting into whatever you're getting into, check it out, because there's people that are out there sharing information and helping you out. So over the course of the last couple of days, I got into making some things for my table saw. First, I made this sled. This sled uses a couple of Teflon skids. They ride in the saw, and that provides you somewhere you can, you can use this slide to control your material and to set different jigs if you're making repetitive cuts. Now this jig that I made here is about as simple as it gets. Sorry for the shadow. But this is a finger joint jig. Basically you run your dado set. This is set to 3/4 inch. You run your dado set through. Then you move it the width of the dado over to what would be the left of the blade. And you insert a block the same size. In this case, it was cut a little short, so I put a little bit of tape to make up the difference. And then you secure your backboard, you secure that to the back of your sled. And what this allows you to do is to make a finger joint like this. So how this works is you make your cut initially, run through your saw, through your dado set, and you just simply slide it to the left, cut your next, slide to the left, cut your next, and that gives you your finger joint pattern. Now, you're going to have the opposite of that side. As you can see, there's 4 slots and 5 tenons. I think these are 5 fingers. So you need the reverse of that, where you need 4 fingers and 5 slots. Now, this was a test piece. As you can see, I was working out my spacing and getting it just right, and this one was not right, but I did eventually get it right. So, as you can see, fingers, spaces, finger joint, made with a very simple sled and jig, and that allows you to do so much in the way of woodworking. Now, I accomplished this by using a dado stack, which is what this is here. This is a stack of blades to a required width, using the blades and also different sized spacers in between the blades. Now, I needed 3/4 of an inch, so that was satisfied with the blades alone. I didn't need any of the spacers for the dado set, but they do come with them. They're just round metal spacers that you use to increase and decrease, to increase your blade width or your dado width. So how this works is you set one blade, and then these are called the chippers, and you set those in there, kind of like a star pattern, depending on how many you need. So that way the blades are facing the right direction, and they're also not touching the other blades. Like this would be incorrect. Well, that would be okay, but I would rather this side of that blade not be there, so I would probably move this to split the difference. And there you go, stack those up. Last one goes on top. And as you can see, that stack then allows me to cut 3/4 inch channels out of material in a single pass. And that allowed me to make the sides for my bee boxes. I'm not perfect, standing a little proud. But in beekeeping, nothing's got to be really perfect. The bees will do a lot of the work on their own. But these are now, ready for finish. I haven't decided what kind of opening or entrance I'm going to use with these boxes. Most of the time, they're just open and they set on a bottom board. These are a solid bottom board that I attach to the boxes. I like a solid bottom board attached to the bottom box. That's just my preference. I have a few that are the opposite style, that are just 10 frame boxes or 8 frame boxes that needed a bottom board. But that's a solid bottom also. It just creates this space as an opening for the bees to come in instead of it being a bottom board on mine. So I'll have to create some kind of opening in these bottom boxes for the bees to use to come in and out. But, like I said, I made 5 supers per. I did make 1 lid, but I ran out of 1 by. This is what's called a migratory lid. It's as wide as the boxes. It doesn't stand proud of the box. Well, this stands a little proud of the box, and just rests on top, just like that. Some people drill holes for feeders in these, and you can do whatever you want. But this allows you to stack multiple boxes next to one another on a pallet or in a tighter space without having any overhang of your lid. Usually I create an overhang for my lids. These couple, I'm trying something else to see how the migratory lids fare and what I think of their overall impression. Everybody uses them. So many people use them that obviously it works. This being plywood, I'm expecting some buckling and such, but I also automatically put the 2-inch foam on top of my colonies right off the start. I leave it on all summer and leave it on all winter, obviously. To me, it just doesn't make sense to change that insulation level mid-season. I figure consistency is key. If we can get something really consistent going in the box itself with that insulation, it's just easier for the bees to deal with. They understand, that the dynamics of the hive. I also probably going to build a shim board for these with ventilation like I do for my 5 frames, but I don't have that material on hand at the moment. Today I was just working on getting boxes built. I'm going to put some stain on these, some stain and sealer. I got this stuff on sale a couple years ago. I bought 5 gallons of it or so. And it's worked great on these plywood boxes. I've had 0 issues with, I can't say 0. I've had some issues with plywood boxes. The normal issues, warping, chipping. That being said, sometimes the plywood isn't as good. You get bad plywood every now and again that has a lot of spaces in between, or it's you know, the ply itself wasn't fully intact. It was missing spaces. It might have been from the outer edge of the logs when they created it. If you've never seen how they make plywood, take a look at that. They basically shave it down and make those layers, add those layers together and compress them and glue them and all that good stuff. But either way, with this stain and sealer, you can see the difference between these two materials. It's a nice color. It works really well. And it served my purposes. Now you could go ahead and paint these boxes. Plenty of people paint them. I mean, these boxes here are painted, you know, nailed and painted. These could just as well be painted, but since I bought nicer plywood, sanded plywood, I figure I'll put the stain and sealer on it. And I might change the color or the stain on them. I don't know yet. I got time to decide. Now, in getting back to the plywood, some of the issues that I've had with the plywood, I think I have that super. I have one super that got really warped. And I believe the reason for that has to do with the orientation of the plywood. Now, plywood does have a grain. It does, it can and will. It does have a grain. The outer sheet is what I'm referring to. So I try to cut my plywood with the grain vertical. That seemed to be the best way. I'm sorry, I'm looking for a super back here, but I don't see it. It's one of the ones that really buckled on me. But we'll take a look right here. See, the grain is running vertically here. And I find when I use the side panels and I make the side panels and that grain runs vertically, I don't see hardly any issues with any of the warping that I saw in some of those ones that, you know, I just cut it out of what I had that was left over or whatever it was that wasn't cut with the grain, and it made a huge difference in the way the plywood responded. After that, I haven't had any issues with the plywood. It's only been a couple of years, but they get all the exposure. They're in full sun. They're on my roof. They're out on my B deck. They get wind, they get rain, they get snow, and so far so good. I don't have any complaints with the plywood. It's cheap. It's easy to use. It's easy to get usually, and you can get a lot out of it. These two stacks I made with 2 full sheets of sanded plywood. So out of 2 full sheets, I got 2 10-frame deep supers, and I got 10 medium 10-frame supers out of 2 sheets of plywood. That runs about $90, maybe $100. So each one of these cost me, let's call it 50, if you want to call it 50 with glue and fasteners. $50 for this stack. Now that's a pretty good stack for most beekeepers, most hobby beekeepers. That's a lot. 10 frames, mediums hold maybe 2 pounds, 2.5 pounds of honey. That's 20 to 30 pounds maybe per box. If you're talking about honey production, you know, there's 120 pounds worth of honey if they're filled. You know, you can get a lot out of a sheet of plywood. Then you just need the frames and the bees. So this to me is the most economical way. Now this one I spent time doing all these finger joints and all that. My normal boxes, I just glue them, butt them up, and staple them. Nothing this fancy, and I'll continue to make those boxes, as you can see right here. They're just butt joints. There's nothing fancy about this. Butt joints, 1.5" staples, Type-On 3 glue. Type-On 3 is perfect because it is food grade safe, indirect food contact safe. I think almost all of the Type-Ons are indirect food contact safe now, and the staples, and it's been working great. So don't worry so much about buying boxes. If you have the ability, you got a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of tools, or even finding someone that can help you with those things, a friend, or even hiring a local handyman to help you make the cuts. You can get a lot out of this kind of material and save yourself some cost and have a lot of fun doing it. This is a lot of fun doing this. And if you got kids, once you get the boxes built, the kids can help paint them. It really makes a lot of impact across your life. You can really get people involved with it, and it's really a lot of fun and very enjoyable. And I love that aspect of beekeeping. So that's it, my Christmas video. We got some finger joints, we got some boxes built. I'm excited and looking forward to 2021 and beekeeping, because my 2020 year, in spite of everything else, was fantastic. It's been a great year. I know for a lot of people it hasn't been so bad either. If you were able to work and continue life a little bit, things weren't so bad. So we're going to get better. Thanks very much for watching. As always, take a look at the rest of my videos if you want. You can like and subscribe. That never hurts. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.